school of psychotherapy called internal family systems, or IFS, the mind is said to be made up of many different parts. For example, there was a part of Louise that was sad her marriage had ended, but there was another part that knew it was for the best. Or we can look at Mark. A part of him wanted to be a father and another part felt scared. So IFS is based on the idea that you are made up of many different parts. This is called multiplicity. So we each have an internal family of parts, hence the name internal family systems. But what happens to these internal parts as a result of trauma? Well, let's look at Sam. As a child, Sam was verbally abused by both parents. Over time, he learned to develop people-pleasing and perfectionist behaviours. Now, this was an attempt to cater to his parents' emotional needs and avoid further abuse. He also buried his own feelings to avoid provoking a hostile reaction, but this caused him to binge eat and self-harm as a way of managing his distress. Sam's people-pleasing and perfectionist parts are known as managers. Managers are his protective parts that control the outside world in an attempt to keep him safe. His manager parts believe, I am defective and I am unlovable. In IFS, the extreme beliefs and emotions that attach to parts are called burdens, and they drive the way you feel and behave. So a burden attaches itself to a part and impacts the way it operates. It's a little bit like a virus attaching to its host, but it's important to remember a burden is not a part. Now, the other parts that are at play here are called firefighters. Firefighters are also protective parts, but they're very different from managers. Sam's firefighters try to block his emotional distress by binge eating and self-harming. So managers are very strategic and controlling, and firefighters react automatically and powerfully without concern for consequences. Sam's firefighter parts hold the burdens, I am weak and I'm vulnerable. Sam's burdens developed as a child when his parents abused him. So personal burdens are maps that you develop as a child that reveal your sense of worth, how much you deserve love, and what you expect from other people and the world around you. Now, a core principle of IFS is that every part has a positive intention. There are no bad parts. So Sam's perfectionism, people-pleasing, binge eating and self-harming all have a positive motive. They want to protect Sam by banishing the most vulnerable parts. These parts are called exiles. Deep inside Sam, there are younger parts that are frozen in time. These exiles include little Sam, who carries multiple traumas, such as parental abuse, being bullied at school, and being sexually touched by an older boy when walking home. Exiles are kind of like your inner children that are hurting badly, and quite often exiles can be unconscious. Sam's exiles hold burdens of shame and terror. Now, one of the central tenets of IFS is that all protective parts are organised around fear. For example, if I ask Sam, what are you afraid might happen if you don't self-harm, binge eat, people please, or have perfectionist standards? This is one way to get to the heart of Sam's fear. You do have to be careful when working with parts, because once an exile is triggered, you can get a huge explosion of trauma emotion. Remember, the role of the protectors is to ensure nobody can get close enough to trigger the exiles. And never go straight to exiles without the permission of the protectors. If you don't get the permission, you'll get a backlash. So remember, protectors are trying to help the internal system, and they have a positive intention, even if it doesn't look that way. Now, another concept that I want to introduce to you is polarizations. Polarizations are extremely common with trauma. It's when two protective parts are in conflict with each other. For example, Sam's perfectionist part is polarised with the binge eating part. His perfectionist part manages emotional distress by counting calories and monitoring macros. And his binge eating part manages emotional distress by overeating and dissociating. This polarisation results in upset and frustration for all parts involved. Remember, Sam's managers and firefighters are trying to protect his exiles, but they're polarised about the best way to achieve this aim. They don't trust each other, even though they're both trying to protect the same exiles. Self-leadership is the indisputable solution to polarizations. The self is present from birth and is not actually considered a part, as it's something we are all born with. The self is characterised by the 8 C's: compassion, curiosity, clarity, creativity, calm, confidence, courage and connectedness. So the idea is that everybody has access to these qualities at their core. That's because the self is preserved even during trauma. Rather than Sam being controlled by his managers, firefighters and exiles, we want his self to be in charge. His self can then care for his vulnerable parts and lead discussions between parts and their polarizations. Under self-leadership, Sam will find that his parts will generally cooperate with each other, but if there is a conflict, his self can mediate between the different parts. But in a traumatised system, how much space is available for the self? The IFS therapist Frank Anderson believes there's a fixed amount of space within each person, and when most of this space is taken up by protectors and exiles, there's limited space for the self to occupy. He called this the container theory. Because of the severity of Sam's traumas and the fact that his systems developed such large protective parts, this leaves little room for his self. His self is there, but there's not a lot of space for it. Now, if Sam was to start psychological therapy, he can begin the process of unburdening. This involves burdens leaving parts. When this happens, the protectors relax as they can let go of their extreme roles, which leaves more room for the self. So Sam's protectors can become inner advisors and inner problem solvers. And when his self shows acceptance and compassion to his exiled parts, they can transform into spontaneous and playful parts. So self-energy is the ultimate corrective experience for parts. Parts learn that you're not a child anymore, and as yourself, you can possess the qualities of self-leadership. Now, there is another IFS component we need to consider, and that's legacy burdens. A legacy burden is a belief, emotion or sensation that doesn't come from your own life experience, but the experience of your parents, grandparents, great-grandparents and so forth. If you'd like to learn more about legacy burdens and their impact on the internal system, click on the video on the screen now, and I look forward to seeing you soon.